everyone, and welcome to Martin's Home and Gardens Houseplant of the Week. This week, we're super excited to be talking about the lovely Audrey Ficus. These ficus are related to the rubber plant, which we've talked about in another video. The care is slightly similar, except these aren't necessarily as forgiving with light requirements. These also are pretty important in the fact that they are the national tree of India. They're native to Asia, and being the national tree of India is pretty cool because you can have it in your own house. So if you're kind of interested in Indian culture, there you go. You got their national tree. These plants do like a good amount of light. They're going to like about 6 hours or more, whatever you can give them, of bright indirect light. They would have to be like adjusted properly to direct light, which means that these are going to like a nice eastern facing window with as much light as you can give them. You can put them in a southern or western facing window, but they do need to be a little bit removed from that window because it'll be too direct of light. So just make sure that they have enough filtered if they're going to be on a southern or western facing window. With the light, I would recommend rotating frequently to keep like a consistent shape because they do have this nice upright growth fashion, similar to rubber plants and fiddle leaf figs, which are their relatives. They are a lot easier to take care of though than the fiddle leaf fig. They're not anywhere near as finicky, and they're not as prone to a bunch of the diseases that a fiddle leaf is. It is really important though to scout for pests like you would with any of the other ficus plants. Because they are prone to a good amount, even though they're not as finicky as a fiddle leaf fig. So when it comes to watering these, they're a little bit different in the fact that they like to have a consistently moist soil, and they still want to dry out for short periods of time. So you really have to make sure that you're not overwatering these. They're not as susceptible to root rot as other ficuses, but they are still pretty susceptible, just like any other plant is really. So making sure that they're in a nice soil that's aerated, has good drainage, the pot has good drainage as well, and that they are evenly moist but allowed to dry out is pretty important. Since they are native to Asia, you can kind of see that in the way that they like to be watered. I would just recommend finding a niche that works for you. Maybe don't do a schedule, but make sure you check it. You can just stick your finger in there and make sure that it's not super dry, but also not super wet. I would also recommend maybe checking the bottom of the plant to make sure that there's not just a bunch of water sitting at the bottom still when you are going to water again next, just to really ensure that you don't get any kind of root rot. So if you water too much, you can get root rot. If you don't water enough, or you make that space in between where it's dry too long, it will lose leaves. And the leaves on this is what it's known for, so you really want to try not to do that. They're kind of soft and fuzzy, which is different than most other ficuses. Usually you've got that really glossy leaf that feels really like smooth, but these kind of have a softer feel to them. Now the newer growth, it looks all waxy and shiny, but it also has that fuzzy feel to it, which is kind of fun. Another thing it's really known for is that lime green color in between that really dark green foliage. Just makes it stand out really well. If your soil does become compacted, it is important to like take something like not a toothpick, maybe like a skewer or like a coffee stirrer or something like that, and kind of get in the soil and like aerate it up a little bit, like just kind of mix it to where the air and the water can flow through there well. Soil is mostly oxygen, which is kind of interesting to think about. So making sure that it doesn't get too tight where it can't hold that oxygen anymore is really important. I think that's pretty much all I have to talk about when it comes to the Audrey Ficus. We have one right here that looks a little bit different than this one. This one is more upright. This one is more branching, which is kind of interesting. These can get up to 6 feet tall and 3 feet wide in your home, but they can get up to like 90 feet tall in the wild, so that's pretty fun. But they're not going to do that in your house, so don't worry about it. This will go upwards and upwards, and this will just be the top of the tree, and that's kind of how they'll all work. But yeah, Audrey Ficus is a great option if you're looking to add something a little bit different and a little easier in the ficus family. And come check them out because we got a bunch. See y'all next week.